This is the first patch for Marvel Rivals post-launch. We're going to break this down because it's got information on bug fixes, map fixes, and a whole host of other things. We're also going to take a quick look at the roadmap and what is coming in the next season. And also, I think we need to start with this because this feature is actually insane. This is an incredible feature. It's on the official website for the game. It shows you all of the stats for all of the abilities for all of the heroes. Now, if you've played Overwatch, and you know I've played Overwatch, right? That game, you have to go and use obscure workshop modes to reverse engineer what the damage stats are for new abilities. It's actually crazy. This is just like, no. How about we just give you the stats? I don't know why developers were so against this, obviously in terms of Overwatch. This is great, though. This should be the default. You should just straight up have all the heroes available on the official website, not some wiki or some crazy workshop mode you have to go into, like reverse engineer it all. Just have it available. If I want to know what Repulsor Blast does damage-wise and where its damage fall-off is, well, then just let me go to the website and view it. This is great. Good stuff. This is definitely an upgrade in the hero shooter genre, and it's something I wish other games would adopt. So these are the patch notes. This is for version 20241210. And this is what they say. Greetings, rivals. We're here to give you the scoop on that version's release. We noticed that some spots on the edge of the new map would cause characters to become stuck. We had a look at the entire map and have done our best to fix this bug. However, further adjustments may still be needed to fully resolve the issue. So we ask your understanding while we continue to look into it and working on a way to prevent this from happening again. Without further ado, here are the details. All right, let's break down this whole patch. So let's begin with the general changes. When playing highlights and recordings, crosshair deviation would be significant, and there was a possibility for lag. This issue has now been resolved. Changing where highlights were saved would cause the game to crash. This issue has now been resolved. Players joining a quick match as a replacement may not be able to see heroes' equipped costumes. This issue has now been resolved. Mission progress on the season event screen would not display correctly, and now this has been resolved. Fix some textual errors, I should say. More fixes will be coming in a future update. And after a crash, the game had a chance to freeze for a long period of time before closing. This issue has been resolved, and now the game will close after crashing. Fix some relatively common crash issues. Moving on to the maps and game modes. On certain maps, particularly Hydra, Charteris Base, Hell's Heaven, and Kleinatar Symbolic Surface. Now, I'm going to butcher these names, and I completely apologize, so just roll with me. Special collisions on the edges would cause the player's character to become stuck or clip through the enter strange areas. These issues have been largely resolved, but as this affects multiple maps and areas, this bug may be present elsewhere. We're working to continue fixing these issues and developing a solution to thoroughly prevent them. Indeedy-doody. In the foggy areas of Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, Hall of Djala, again, I'm going to butcher all these names, I apologize, and the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, Birin T'Challa, fog would disappear from Hela and Storm's perspectives when they activated their ultimates. This issue has now been resolved. After Jeff the Land Shark was revived while in the fog, his teammates and enemies would not be able to see the special effects of Joyful Splash, and this issue has now been resolved. In Hydra Charteris Base, Hell's Heaven Frozen Airfield, in competitive, if a player was KO'd while moving near a target area, it would cause the lights to behave abnormally. This has now been resolved. During matches, disconnecting and reconnecting could cause desynchronization of some doors, i.e. a door looked to be closed, but the player could walk through. A door looked to be open, but the player couldn't walk through, and we've now fixed this. On the Eldritch Monument section of the Hydra base, when the target area is ascending or descending, if Adam Warlock used his ultimate, his teammates would potentially revive to be stuck beneath the terrain if they were at the right on the target area platform. This issue has now been resolved. When the target area is ascending or descending, if Thor or Loki were revived by Hela's team-up ability, they would potentially revive and be stuck beneath the terrain, and this has now been fixed. You can see where this is going. They're fixing a lot of revives here. When the target area is ascending or descending, if Jeff the Land Shark used his ultimate to devour characters, they would potentially become stuck beneath the terrain if they were right on the target area platform. It's now been fixed. When the target area is ascending or descending, if Winter Soldier hit an enemy with his ultimate, which, by the way, his ultimate is actually insane. The way it resets, it's so good. And they landed right on the target area platform, the damage may be lost, but now this has been resolved. When switching between rounds in competitive, if the destination was not the last stage of a map, it would cause the vehicle's effective range to not display when it approached the destination, impacting determination of the effective occupation range. This is just now been resolved. Oh god, I'm loving this. I'm just loving the way this is written, because it's very clearly written. God, it's written in Chinese and then it's translated to English. I think that's what's going on here. It's pretty funny. But I think they're talking about the payload, basically, there, or the vehicle, as they're calling it. Upon reaching the third round in competitive convoy or convergence, heroes had a chance to carry over their ultimate energy from the second round. This issue has been resolved, and heroes will no longer inherit their ultimate energy. Now, I'm not going to lie, I just thought this was a feature. I thought, oh yeah, you just keep your ult, because you just start the round off and then I pop my ult. It's like, what the hell? But apparently this was a bug, and well, now it's fixed, and I mean, that's a huge bug, right? Retaining ultimate charge into the next round. I thought it was a feature, honestly. So let's move on to the hero changes. So firstly, Wolverine had his Deadpool and Wolverine costume equipped. No ability voice lines other than the Undying Animal ability line would play. This issue has now been resolved. After Star-Lord's Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 3 MVP animation played, sound effects would not be played in the results screen. This has now been resolved. When Iron Fist used pings, the corresponding voice lines would not be triggered. This issue has now been resolved. The description for ADS sensitivity in Black Widow's settings was incorrect, and now it's fixed. In certain situations, Black Widow's ultimate would not recover energy as intended, and now it's been fixed. In extreme situations, Captain America's ultimate wouldn't end as intended. Unlimited ult hold here. But now this has been resolved. When Doctor Strange's portals triggered terrain KOs, they would mistakenly restore Doctor Strange's ultimate energy. So this means you could kill your team and get ultimate energy. For now, we have disbanded the portal's terrain KO attribution to temporarily fix this issue. I should say disabled, not disbanded. They've turned it off. I.e., terrain KOs will not count towards Doctor Strange's own KOs. Rest assured, this bug will be resolved in a future update, at which time we will restore the portal's KO attribution. So this basically is, I mean, you've all seen the clips now where people drop the portal in front of the spawn door and then the other end off the map, and then everyone runs through it and dies, and yeah, the Doctor Strange gets a bunch of ultimate charge, even if it's his own team that are doing this, to give him ult charge, which is an insane tactic if you think about it. I don't even think that would be worth doing, but whatever, it's still funny. But yeah, this is going to get fixed in the future, and yeah, but as I say, I think I've seen this clip about 1 billion times, where it's like Jeff when he gets everyone in his ult and throws them off the map. Yeah, it's been done to death now. Move on, TikTokers, move on. These are PC-specific changes, so using FSR3 frame generation technology to modify the resolution could cause memory leaks, resulting in blurry models, but this has now been resolved. Moving on to console changes. After equipping the PlayStation Bundle Scarlet's Spider costume, restarting the game could cause the costume to not display as correctly equipped. This issue has now been resolved. And then finally, they're going to say, we'll be keeping an eye on the frequency of different bugs and fixing them as fast as we can. We also have another patch in the works, this time with new content. Be sure to follow our socials for all the latest news. So yeah, that's the first sort of live patch notes of the game. There's no major balance changes there. There's just a bunch of fixes, mainly to display stuff. It looks like you've obviously got fixes to some of the maps as well. On the Hydra base, where that platform goes up and down in the middle of the control point, it was causing a lot of issues with revives and other ultimate abilities. That's been fixed. So this is decent, right? But there's still obviously some crazy balance issues in the game. And the more you play it, the more you'll be like, oh yeah, these things probably need looking at. Things like Iron Fist being able to just constantly chase people. Even if you're Iron Man and flying, he can just chase you down. It's kind of crazy. Things like Jeff and Groot, that combo, it's pretty strong. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff to fix here. There's a lot of stuff to look at, but they seem to be starting in a good place where they're just looking at fixing things which are essentially game-breaking. You know, nobody wants their ultimate to last forever if you're Captain America. Well, I guess Captain America does, but nobody else does. But yeah. So let's move on to the roadmap. Now, what I'm going to show you is some screenshots from the roadmap dev blog that they dropped. And there's a bit of information here. There isn't info on what we're actually going to get in the next season, but there's some bits of information we can sort of break down. So season 1 will begin early January 2025. Now, we know this because obviously if you go into the game, you can look at the duration left on the current season. We also know that the current season, season 0, is essentially half the size in terms of content of what an actual season will be. I think it's actually less than that because an actual season is going to be 3 months long, which is quite long for a season, but they're committed to adding content to that and all of that stuff. So yeah, this is confirmation that the season will start in early January, but we kind of knew that already. The next thing we get is that, yeah, season 1's going to start in Jan, but also every 3 months there will be a new season. It may be a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer, but that's what they're aiming for. And honestly, I think this is okay. There is a danger that this might be a bit too long, but it depends on what they do in the season, right? So if they just front load the season with content and then come back 3 months later, that might be a bit of an issue. But if they've got an idea where they, drop a bunch of content, then they've got mid-season updates and things like that, then yeah, potentially this could be fine in terms of keeping players engaged. In terms of what they'll be in these updates, you can see from the subtitles there'll be new heroes, new maps, new team-up abilities, and then they also go on to say, and maybe even more game modes. So I think there's a commitment there to, yeah, you're going to get new heroes, new maps, new team-up abilities, but then, yeah, game modes, maybe every other season you might get a game mode, because I'm sure they're probably a bit more difficult to put together and make. But I'd like to know what you guys think about this roadmap and what you'd like to see in the game. Anyway, there is a really, weird thing in the game at the moment. And I didn't know this was a thing, right? But if you look at the hero selection wheel when you're in, queuing for, when you're in the lobby, basically, to start a game, there's like a little icon by the heroes. And that means that they've got a seasonal damage boost, which is really friggin' weird. And I don't like that at all, because it just suddenly means that certain heroes, I mean, heroes like Iron Fist have got this, are just stronger. Now, I don't know what the percentage is, because it seems to differ through all of the heroes, but it's really weird, that is. I don't like that. And I think that's a remnant of the way mobile games work, where they just sort of randomly buff a hero arbitrarily for a season to make you sort of play them. I don't like that, and maybe I'm getting that a bit wrong, though. You guys let me know if you know more about that in the comments below. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's the first patch notes roundup for this game. As you can tell, I am interested in this game. I've been playing it a bunch. I want to keep abreast of the patch notes. I also want to see what happens with this game in the coming weeks. And yeah, still having fun playing it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want more content, like and subscribe to the channel and all that jazz. And yeah, you can follow me on everything, which is at Stylosa. And I'll catch you lovely lot on the next video. See you soon.